Stop me junglers if you've heard this before. Start on the blue buff or on the top side, pass to the bottom side, don't get a leash, gank bot, gank it again, ignore top lane. Yeah, you've heard that a lot, haven't you? Man, you still can't climb even though you do it. That's because the first part of the game is not the only part of jungling, nor does it force you to lose when things don't go your way like some coaches would have you believe. So in this video, we're going to highlight a few game scenarios showcasing the importance of the 7 to 12 minute point and how you build on good and bad first phases of the game. You can have an amazing first clear, an amazing first session out on the map, or an absolutely horrific one, but the 7 to 12 minute marker will showcase to you how you double down on that victory to make sure, you know, it's a victory, or you just end up correcting the mistakes and coming back. And if you want to learn not only about this, but all the things that tie together to become one ultimate League of Legends player, there's less than 2 weeks until we have our total Gosu Academy Virkayu.gg bootcamp with myself and Coach Kybit. It is now starting at the beginning of Split 2, a completely revamped bootcamp curriculum from Gosu Academy as well as Virkayu.gg, Coach Kybit, and myself, explaining to you exactly how to play jungle and all roles so that you become the total player, the player's player. Early game to mid game to late game, from jungling to lane to teamfighting to all classes, all roles. The link is in the description below and I hope to see you all there. So we have ourselves a very standard start here. The Kayn does red, Krugs, Raptors into a loop to the bottom side, meta clear. Why? Because we know the Kha'Zix started on the top side and he's going to be sequencing down. The idea behind this is to perhaps either leave ward, to potentially invade and steal something, but ideally it's to get a gank on the bottom lane before the enemy jungle is able to do anything about it, so they can farm their camps but have nothing else to do. So the Kayn misses the Q, but that's fine, we go for this even though he shouldn't. We see this. He's a little late to this rotation, would probably be going for this instead of the blue straight up, but we'll be able to get something back a little bit. Nice and quick, but the W will hit, we'll take it. Kha'Zix in the meantime has decided to follow and chase. And if you look at the gameplay video that has released around the same time as this, you will see a very similar scenario except against a Viego. We do the trade, we force the Kayn back, and now things are going to settle down a little bit in the early phase. The problem with this is, the Kayn will basically do what now from the Kha'Zix's perspective? Go to the top side. He will have his top side camps available. He can then look to do something top lane. He can do something mid lane. Kha'Zix says, you know what? I could farm my camps. Yeah, I could do my quadrant. A little bit of a reset here. Master tier career, no stress. But why? I know the Kayn's going to be coming back down here. He got ahead of me a little bit. Let me get ahead of him. So we'll take the Scuttle Crab. You will see the dive happen on your screen now. Not exactly the best dive, and of course we get caught out. We see the Kayn go through the mid lane there, shove that wave out, and now he will rotate and get himself a couple of more juicy gold income thresholds. The Kha'Zix is severely compromised after this dive. But as Kha'Zix, we can see here now, basically we're level 3, we're screwed. And the whole point of this video is talking about the second and third phase of the jungle rotations that we have. Now, I split it up into two, 1 minute to 7 minutes, and then 7 minutes to 12 minutes, but in reality, you've got your first clear, your first rotation, then you got your second clear, maybe that ends up being your third clear as well, and then you kind of go into that next phase. But here, we basically grow Gromp into Wolves to take those camps finally off the map. This is an interesting point, because you could actually, and in theory, maybe some would argue should, go Krugs Raptors. Why? Because these are two camps you have already taken. They have respawned at a higher experience threshold. The first camps to respawn will always spawn again at level 4 in that first quadrant. The camps you do when you're doing a full clear in the second quadrant that you clear will respawn at level 5. We know the Kayn will go for his Raptors and Krugs, as we can see here, because that's exactly what he has to do. They're the only two camps on the map because we saw that he did the blue side when he showed up in the mid lane. This means what we can do here is definitely go Grump, Wolves, and part upside and focus our own experience as we hit 7 minutes, right? The second phase of the early game. But will that allow us the ability to reach 20 kills, do the most damage, have the highest kill participation, and win the game? Because I promised you that's what we would be talking about in this video. No, instead he goes for the Grump into the Wolves. Now, should he have done that? No, what he should have done is go Wolves into the Grump with the full intent of getting ahead of the Kayn. So this shows a lack of tracking and a bit of proactivity from the Kha'Zix, which is what we need to work on from 6-7 minutes on the way to 12 minutes. However, he says, I can't get back into this game unless I make a play ahead of the Kayn. I already tried to do that, it didn't go well, the Kayn still got stuff. So lantern me in, let me go to work, let's try and kill the Pike here as soon as we can, which we do. Kaiser also dies. The Kayn showed up late to that fight because he was doing Raptors Krugs, so the Kha'Zix used that information to make a proactive play to get ahead of him. Now again, we're taking it a little bit too seriously, but we know the Kayn's in the area. We know he's not going to go back to base again. We know he's going to shadow upside because the red buff is spawning. But hold on a second. Look at the map. Look at the CS. Look what's going on. Rumble has a lead, Jax has a lead. So now it's splits. Kayn has a huge CS advantage over the Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix just got a few things back by making good second phase plays, getting ahead of the Kayn to prevent him snowballing his lead and his laners. So our bottom lane are now rescued. We do have winning laners. We also notice that the Rumble hits 6 and has his ultimate up. The important part about this is not every lane will use their ult when they trade at 5 minutes 30, at 6 minutes. Should they? Could they? Probably. Should the jungler show up then? Yes. But we're talking a little bit later here. So we see that he has his ult. We looked and watched the Aurelion Sol. Wait, he's down 2 levels. It doesn't matter when this happens. Look for the advantage on the map. There is always an advantage on the map. We're going to E in here, make sure we get our Q off, hit the W, and the Rumble will hit his ult to get the kill. Kayn drifted by, not able to do anything. It is now cut off. What do you think that Kayn's going to do when he sees a Kha'Zix here do that? Exactly right. He is most likely going to try and invade and take the red away. However, as we can see from this point of view, instead he's going to Q off the wall to avoid vision, not hit the plant to avoid detection, and go straight for the Krugs because he feels like the Kha'Zix is going to do the Raptors and then go onto the red buff so we can invade and fight it afterwards. The problem is the Kha'Zix created himself lane prio. So the Kha'Zix starts up his red buff here and says, all right, this should be free. The orb shows over the wall. There's the Kayn with the scan, and we go, oh, well, we need some help. Rumble cancels. When you find an advantage on the map and you play around it properly as a jungler, you will always find yourself in the absolute best position to make the right plays. You will also find yourself in the best position to have laners make plays for you and with you, as you're seeing here. The Kayn decided, though, instead to not make good plays. He basically trailed the Kha'Zix here, got frustrated, made an aggressive move, and just like that, it swapped. The Kayn is suddenly a little bit more compromised. He is 20 CS up, but who cares? However, that's not the end of this, isn't it? This is the beginning of the second phase of the game and on our journey to getting really, really fed. The Kayn now is going to show up on the bottom side here. He has used his level 6. Kha'Zix doesn't even have his level 6 secured. So we use the outside in rule to basically say, look, the Scuttle Crab is available, let me go for this to take it away from the Kha'Zix. We see the Pyke, 6. We see the Kai'Sa, 5. Pushing in. Can we do anything? No. Our blue buff is spawning. Kayn will know this. So we go to the Grump and we'll just basically protect ourselves. The Umbral Glaive itemization, you can ignore that. Not really the point of the video. Itemization, you know, is always in question, but ultimately your jungle decision-making and mechanics will be the most important. We'll take the Grump, we'll get level 6, we will evolve our Claws. Kayn decides to do nothing. This is the difference between junglers who end up carrying, as the Kha'Zix goes to the bottom side, and the junglers who end up not carrying. The jungler who has a 20 CS lead early and doesn't use it, right here, you're seeing it. Kha'Zix goes in, commits flash, commits scanner just in case he needs to. He does get the kill, he will die for it fairly, so rotate and kill the Kayn as well. Now, 225 versus 221, gold amount, 4.1 to 3.8. 300 gold lead for the Kha'Zix. But how did he swing that gold lead? It's all about tempo control. It's all about getting ahead of the enemy jungler and doing the thing that they want to do before they can. And if they have the lead, it makes it even more powerful. We see the Kha'Zix now basically saying, I see the Kayn on the mid lane and I'm watching him. He looks to be going down to this. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and do this because my Jace, well, the enemy Jace in this case, is pushed in. Kayn basically says, look, Jax disappeared down. I guess they must be on Herald. So he's going to make the flex play and say, I better go for the objective because I've seen that my bottom lane is still winning. Free objective for me. Kha'Zix sees a free objective, knows that that's most likely the case because he saw the Kayn go down to the Rapt Pit and will now go ahead and take the blue buff. The problem is, because the blue team knows that that Herald was taken due to the, global timer, the Jace is going to rotate over. But the work you put in to snowball a winning lane, the work you put in to getting yourself fed without dying, the work you put in to helping lanes in trouble will always come back to pay you. Always. So when you say, oh, my lanes are only ever inting, or I have a winning lane and he throws, did you do enough to leverage his lead into a W? And again, we're 2-2-6 here, but we're getting a blue, we're getting a Grump. We know most likely we're being counter jungled here, but we don't really care about that. Because when your first phase doesn't go well, and you're focusing on the 7 to 12 minute, the goal for the 7 to 12 minute marker is as follows. Gain as much gold and experience as you can at the expense of the enemy jungler. Whatever they want to do it first. If you truly cannot counter them on it, do something of equal value or greater value. When you have these tenets written down in your mind, you'll always find yourself having a really good 7 to 12 minute phase. And the Kha'Zix started that at 6 minutes this game because he had such a hard early phase wasting so much time. And the Kha'Zix was down 20 CS. But now look at him. Forcing the Kayn to be compromised, forcing the Kayn to make trailing decisions. And even though the Kayn did get some stuff here, he's 3-2-1, we look at the CS amount, we don't care. 5.4 to 4.9, it has grown the gold lead. Now we're going to basically say, look, I have Umbral Glaive, might as well use it for some vision control, or I can bait in the Jace with my ultimate and get a kill, lack of respect, easy execution. Now we're 2-2-7. Do you see why the 7 to 12 minute phase is so damn strong here? I talked a lot about this in a very similar styled video on the Jungle Detail video series available only through my Virkayu.gg memberships. Once a week I make a video about a really interesting thing I saw in scouting or in coaching or in, working with high elo junglers, and that really resonated with me, so I wanted to take a different game here and showcase to you. You can just pick a game at random and look at the 7 to 12 minute phase and see such a different approach from the junglers, the one who's winning, the one who's losing, and it doesn't really matter, because if the Kha'Zix was winning that first phase, trust me, he would be dominating right now. Look, the Kayn's doing his Raptors. So from our perspective as Kha'Zix, we're like, I don't really know what's going on with him, but the Kayn isn't using his lead properly. He's focusing way too much on himself, instead of saying, hey, is there a lane I can help put the fire in? Is there a lane I can snowball? And now, what have we done? Taken the Herald, the most important thing, activated it, and smacked it on this turret. We will secure those cash money golds. Move into the jungle here. See, Kais is hitting this one. Aphelios is 4-5-2, my friends. That is effectively a losing lane here. The Kais is up almost 2k gold, 1.5k gold. So what can we do about that? 2-2-7, let's have a look. Kais is overcommitting. Pyke wards. We say no, because Aurelion Sol is chasing our Rumble, and Kayn has decided to fight onto the Rumble and gets rotated on by the Kha'Zix and gets killed. He is zoned off from the equalizer of Rumble. Kha'Zix finishes off the job, and another 2 kills in the pocket, 4-2-7. And now, instead of going back to our jungle camps, we take some more stuff away. Can you see the power of the 7 to 12, 7 to 13 minute phase in terms of getting yourself a gold lead? The KDA is relevant. It's all about the fundamentals and the decisions you make to make your jungling supreme. Aurelion Sol TPs in, shows up in the bottom lane, and another kill is gained. This doesn't really matter too much to us in the grand scheme of things, because now effectively the gold lead is 7.6 to 5.5. We have a 2k gold lead over the enemy jungler, and it was so damn quick. The Kayn ended up not making proactive decisions. The Kha'Zix did. And now what you're going to see is an accumulation of all the kills that the Kha'Zix took in the rest of this game to absolutely take over. So my best lesson to you, based upon the last day or two of VOD scouting that I've seen overall, please ensure that you are making the picks you can make in the early game. Don't put your head in the sand and AFK farm and say, right, I need to basically turn myself into a gargoyle and do absolutely nothing for the game. Look at it from a different approach. I'm down 20 CS, I'm not going to outfarm this guy, I might as well get a gank off. I know he's on the bottom side and he's going to make a gank, so I should gank before him, get that advantage. If I have winning lanes, I need to focus on snowballing them. And you'll see at the end of this game when I show the match history and of course the scorecard, that it's not like the damage from the Jax and the Rumble really was any consequence. It was a Kha'Zix now moving around, using the right fundamentals for the mid and the late game to just dominate. I will leave a link below to the specific mid-game strategies that he uses. I've made a video on that in the past as well. But the next time you are struggling in that first clear, the 1 to 6 minutes, you're getting frustrated. I'll show you some clips from the Lee Sin game as well. What happens is when you start thinking about early game jungling in terms of the 7 to 12 minute phase, and as that's the true pivot point for your victory, you will make the right plays. You will make the plays that are intelligent, as long as you don't have an ego and overcommit. So for this game, you can see here, instead of having, winning lanes that we can play around, the Xin Zhao gets invaded, he dies early. No lane prio. He tries to make a commensurate play on the other side, he gets collapsed upon and dies. The trick in these particular cases is to just ensure you can control your own jungle as much as possible. You see here the Xin Zhao will farm his camps up, he'll get himself level 6, but you can't only do that, you have to try and get something somewhere. Most of the time, it's tracking the enemy jungler as best you can, sneaking a herald, making a few counter ganks here and there when you do track down, and that one moment allows you to snowball back into the game. It's a much more patient style, but it's still the same as, look, nothing's really happening, I'm going to keep taking my camps as best I can, and then leverage one play, one big moment, into plates, into a kill, and then start to move around the map a bit more organically because I've offset the deficit I had versus enemy jungler, so if I do run into them, I can actually handle myself. And that's a strategic thing. So that 7 to 12 minute mark in this particular game might be a lot more quiet in terms of the other game that we compared it to, but you will still come out ahead because you were doing something the whole time. Getting your camps, not sitting in a bush doing nothing, sneaking away one objective, and then leveraging that into one big play. We see the Azir being pushed in here a little bit. Now it's the time to go ahead, use the fact that we finished on Mythic, use the fact that we've normalized that golden experience amount, and make the quintessential play necessary that will help us snowball to victory. We are watching, we're tracking, we're extrapolating. You can hit your knockups, you can hit your CCs, you can get your damage, focus the right target with the Nautilus, force the Belveth to leave, get the Shurima Shuffle onto the LeBlanc, and grab that kill as well. Suddenly, 420, nice. 6k gold to 5.3. Hopefully you can see how the similarities between the Kha'Zix and the Xinqiao, even though they were different environments, were able to allow them to actually end up controlling the game and going ahead and carrying. So the next time you're stuck in a game and the first phase doesn't go well and your ganks die and you die in your ganks and your team are flaming you, remember, the real meat of the early game, the meat that gets you to the mid game nicely, the phase that allows you to actually play the game, it's 7 to 12, 7 to 13 minutes, again approximate, and it's where you either compound your lead or come back from a deficit. And if you want to truly ascend your jungling to the next level with a few more fundamental examples with the in-depth things I'm talking about here, click the video in the box on the top right.